I found messages on my husband's phone scheduling my funeral 3 months in advance. He'd already picked the date I was supposed to die. Welcome to Tea and Payback, where the tea is hot, the secrets are messy, and karma always finds her way home. Now sit down, pour yourself a cup of tea, let's continue. My name is Iris Caldwell, and I'm 66 years old. For 41 years, I thought I knew the man sleeping beside me every night. I was wrong about everything. It started with something so ordinary I almost missed it. A cracked phone screen. My husband Dennis had been complaining about it for weeks. The spiderweb of fractures across his iPhone, making it nearly impossible to read his messages. That Tuesday morning in November, I found myself with nothing planned and his phone sitting on the kitchen counter where he'd forgotten it before leaving for work. Dennis owned a dental practice in Harborview, Massachusetts, a small coastal town where everyone knew everyone else's business. Or thought they did. I picked up that phone and decided to finally take it to Marcus Chen's repair shop on Lighthouse Avenue. Marcus had been fixing our family's electronics for nearly 2 decades. His son had been in my reading group when I worked as the town librarian. His wife brought me homemade soup when I had pneumonia 4 winters back. In a town like Harborview, these connections meant everything. They meant trust. The bell chimed when I entered his shop, wedged between a vintage bookstore and a cafe that served overpriced lattes to tourists. Marcus looked up from a disassembled tablet, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. "Mrs. Caldwell," he said warmly, "what brings you in today?" I held up Dennis's phone, explained about the cracked screen. Marcus nodded, took the device, asked for the passcode. I recited the 6 digits without thinking, Dennis's mother's birthday. The same code he'd used for everything since I'd met him 41 years ago. Simple, predictable, safe. "Should have it ready by 4, Marcus said. "I'll call when it's done." I spent the day doing exactly what I always did. Morning yoga at the community center. Lunch with Patricia, my closest friend, who talked endlessly about her daughter's crumbling marriage with the kind of weary resignation that comes from watching your children repeat your mistakes. Grocery shopping, where I bought halibut for dinner because Dennis liked it, even though it cost twice what salmon did. The call came at 3:30. "Mrs. Caldwell." Marcus's voice sounded different. Strained. "Could you come back to the shop? There's something I need to show you." My hands tightened on the steering wheel during the drive back. I'd known Marcus Chen for 20 years. I'd never heard fear in his voice before. He was waiting by the door when I arrived. He locked it behind me, flipped the sign to closed, and led me into the back room where he did repairs. Dennis's phone sat on the workbench, screen gleaming and perfect. "Iris," he said, using my first name for the first time in 2 decades. "I need you to listen very carefully. Cancel your credit cards. Change the locks on your house. Do it today. Right now." The room seemed to tilt. "What are you talking about?" Marcus picked up the phone with hands that shook slightly. "When I was transferring data to test the new screen, I found something. Scheduled messages. Hidden in a feature most people don't even know exists." He handed me the phone and I saw what he meant. 7 messages, all queued to send automatically over the next 3 months. All addressed to someone saved in Dennis's contacts as simply V. I read the first message, then the second. By the third, I had to sit down because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. The messages were instructions. Clinical, detailed, terrifying in their precision. "The life insurance policy is in the safe. Combination is 18-42-09. Death benefit, $750,000. Iris's signature is already on file with the company. They won't question anything." Another message, scheduled 2 weeks later. "I've been documenting her memory issues with Dr. Whitmore. He's noted early-stage dementia in her file. This establishes the pattern if anyone asks questions. The confusion, the forgetfulness, it's all documented now." And another. "The will leaves everything to the kids, but I'm executor. I control distribution. Once probate clears, we can access everything. 6 months, maybe 8. Then we're free." The final message was scheduled for February 15th, 3 months from now. It's done. The funeral was yesterday. Everything went exactly as planned. I'll see you in Sarasota next week. The condo is ready. Our new life starts now. I stared at that date. February 15th. In my husband's careful planning, in whatever cold calculation he'd made, I would be dead by February 15th. I don't know who V is, Marcus said quietly. But Iris, he's planning your death. He's already writing about it like it's inevitable. I looked up at him. This man who'd helped me learn to use FaceTime during the pandemic, who'd recovered photos of my grandchildren when my laptop crashed, who was now showing me proof that my husband of 41 years wanted me in the ground. Have you told anyone? My voice sounded calm. Too calm. No. I called you immediately. Marcus ran a hand over his face. We need to call the police. Right now. No. The word came out harder than I intended. What do we have? Messages on a phone. He'll say they were drafts. Fiction he was writing. Jokes taken out of context. I stood, steadied myself against the workbench. Dennis is a respected dentist. I'm a retired librarian he's been telling people has memory problems. Who do you think they'll believe? Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. He knew I was right. I need to copy everything, I said. Every message. And then you need to repair this phone perfectly, like nothing happened. What are you going to do? I thought about Dennis pacing our kitchen the night before, checking his phone obsessively. Had he been reviewing these messages? Making sure his murder timeline was still on track? I'm going to find out who V is, I said quietly. I'm going to discover exactly what he's planning. And then I'm going to make sure the only funeral in February is the one for his reputation. Marcus photographed each message, sent them to an encrypted email account. As he worked, I forced myself to read them again, to see past the shock and focus on what they revealed. Dennis had been planning this for months, laying groundwork with our family doctor, reviewing our finances, our insurance, our assets, finding someone, this mysterious V, to partner with, to run away with after. He'd made one crucial mistake, though. One small error that arrogant men always made. He'd underestimated me. I drove home through November streets, past the harbor where tourists photographed the lighthouse, past the coffee shop where Dennis and I used to have Sunday breakfast, 41 years of tradition. Everything looked the same, but nothing was real anymore. I cooked the halibut that evening with the precision that comes from muscle memory. Sear it 4 minutes per side, finish with lemon and dill. I moved through our kitchen with its white subway tiles I'd chosen and copper pots his mother had given us as a wedding gift, and I felt like a stranger in my own life. Dennis arrived home at 6:15, exactly as he had for 41 years. I heard his key in the lock, his footsteps in the hallway. He appeared in the kitchen doorway wearing his white dental coat and smiled. Kissed my cheek. His lips felt like ice. How was your day? I asked, my voice level. The voice I'd perfected over 4 decades. Long Mrs. Patterson needed a root canal, and you know how she talks. He loosened his tie, that familiar gesture of coming home. What about you? This was the test. I took your phone to Marcus's shop. The screen's fixed. You can pick it up tomorrow. I watched his face carefully. Watched for panic, for the tightening around his eyes, for any sign he remembered what was hidden in that phone. Nothing. His smile didn't waver. Wonderful. Thank you, dear. I kept meaning to do that. He moved to the refrigerator, pulled out a beer. Completely unconcerned. He'd planned my murder with such confidence that it never occurred to him the phone might betray him. That arrogance would destroy him. We ate dinner at the table where we'd eaten 10,000 meals. Dennis talked about a new dental assistant he'd hired, about our son Christopher's upcoming visit for Thanksgiving. Normal conversation wrapped in 41 years of routine. Then he set down his fork. Actually, Iris, I've been thinking about the holidays. Maybe we should have everyone here this year. Could be our last big gathering. Before what? Ice formed in my stomach. Before we get too old for this big house. He made a vague gesture. I've been thinking we should downsize. Maybe a condo. less maintenance. He reached across the table, patted my hand. And honestly, I've been worried about you. The stairs. Your memory lately. I think something smaller would be safer. My memory. He was building his narrative even at dinner, making his case for my incompetence, my decline. How many others had he told this lie to? My memory is fine, I said quietly. Of course it is. That patronizing smile. I just want what's best for us. After dinner, Dennis retreated to his study. I went upstairs to our bedroom and opened my laptop. Finding V wouldn't be easy with just an initial. But Dennis was a creature of habit, and habits left trails. I started with his email. I'd known the password for years, the same 6 digits as his phone. He'd never hidden his accounts from me. Why would he? I was just Iris, agreeable and unquestioning. His inbox revealed nothing unusual at first. Emails from the dental practice, confirmations for golf tea times, newsletters from investment firms. I scrolled back 3 months, 6 months, looking for anything addressed to someone with a V name. Then I found the folder. Tucked into a directory labeled Practice Management, buried among legitimate correspondence, was an email from 4 months ago. The sender, V. Drake. The valuation is complete. Your practice is worth $2.1 million, significantly more than you estimated. Once we finalize the transition plan, we can move forward with liquidation. I've attached the partnership proposal for your review. Partnership. V wasn't just a lover. This was business. I opened the attachment. A detailed proposal for selling Dennis's dental practice. But the numbers didn't match anything he'd shown me on our tax returns. The practice was worth triple what I'd believed. And at the bottom, asset liquidation timeline. February 2025. February, the month I was supposed to die. I searched for more emails from V. Drake. There were 9, each hidden in that innocuous folder. The professional tone shifted by the 3rd email. I appreciate your discretion regarding the personal aspects of this transition. As we discussed, a clean break from your current situation will simplify everything considerably. I'm looking forward to our new arrangement. Current situation. He meant me. Then, in an email from September, I've reserved the condo in Sarasota. 2 bedrooms, ocean view, as requested. We can close as soon as your affairs here are settled. I'm attaching photos. I think you'll be pleased. I clicked the attachment. A luxury condominium, all white marble and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Gulf of Mexico. $2 million, according to the listing. To be purchased with money from Dennis's practice and my life insurance. I took screenshots of everything, emailed them to an address Dennis didn't know about, cleared my browser history. It was past midnight when I climbed into bed beside my husband. He was already asleep, snoring softly. I lay in the dark and listened to him breathe, and I wondered how many nights we'd slept like this, how I'd never seen what lived beneath the surface. The next morning, I went to the Harborview Public Library where I'd worked for 37 years. I knew every corner of that building, every database, every resource. More importantly, I knew the people. Iris, Eleanor Martinez, the head librarian, looked up with genuine pleasure. What brings you in? Missing us already? Can't stay away, Eleanor. I need a favor. I need to research someone quietly. Eleanor's expression sharpened. She'd worked beside me for 23 years. She knew when something was wrong. Come into my office. I told her a version of the truth. That I suspected Dennis was planning something financial. That I needed information on his business partner. I didn't mention murder. Not yet. That truth was too enormous to speak aloud. Victoria Drake, Eleanor repeated, typing into her computer. Let's see what we can find. What we found over the next 3 hours made my blood run cold. Victoria Drake was 43 years old. A business consultant specializing in medical practice acquisitions. She'd worked on 15 practice sales in the past 6 years. Based in Miami originally, but according to her LinkedIn profile, she'd recently relocated to Massachusetts to oversee a significant new acquisition. She's local? I asked. Very local. Eleanor clicked through property records. She bought a condo downtown 4 months ago. Harbor Place, overlooking the water. Paid cash. $900,000. Where would a consultant get that kind of money? Eleanor must have read the question on my face. Want me to dig deeper? Please. By noon, Eleanor had traced Victoria Drake's financial history through public records. The woman was drowning in debt. Her previous consulting business had failed catastrophically 3 years ago, leaving her with creditors circling. The Harborview condo had been purchased through a shell company, and the money Eleanor's eyes widened as she found this had been transferred from an account belonging to Dennis's dental practice. Iris, Eleanor said carefully, this woman appears to be embezzling from your husband, or he's funding her willingly. I finished. Dennis had given Victoria Drake $900,000, promised her a luxury condo in Florida, was planning to sell his practice for $2 million and disappear with her in February. And the only thing in his way was me. There's something else. Eleanor's voice dropped. Court records. Victoria Drake was investigated for elder fraud in Connecticut 4 years ago. A client accused her of manipulating him into signing over his assets. The case was dismissed for lack of evidence, but Iris, she has a pattern. Elder fraud. I was 66. Dennis was 68. He thinks he's using her, I said slowly. But she's using him. I looked at Eleanor, pieces falling into place. He thinks they're planning my death together. But she's planning his death too. What? Look at the pattern. She targets older professionals, gets close to them, helps them liquidate assets. Then what? They disappear? They die. She walks away with everything. Eleanor pulled up another search. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Then she went very still. Iris, look at this. A news article from the Hartford Courant, dated 11 months ago. Dental practice owner found dead in apparent suicide. Business partner under investigation. I read with growing horror. Dr. James Whitfield, a Connecticut dentist, had been found dead in his home. Medication overdose ruled suicide. His business partner, a consultant named Victoria Drake, had been investigated for financial irregularities but never charged. The practice had been sold within weeks, assets liquidated. There's more, Eleanor said quietly, clicking to another article. 2 years before that. Another dentist, this time in Rhode Island. Same pattern. Victoria Drake as consultant. Sudden death ruled accidental. Carbon monoxide in his garage. Practice liquidated immediately after. How many? I whispered. 3 that I can find. Maybe more. Eleanor's hands shook. Iris, she's done this before. She finds successful professionals, older men, helps them plan some kind of exit, and then they die. Every time, she walks away with a fortune. Every time, no charges. 3 men. All dead. All after partnering with Victoria Drake. Dennis doesn't know, I said. He thinks she loves him. Thinks they're going to kill me together and live happily ever after in Florida. But she's planning to kill him too. After I'm dead, maybe make it look like murder-suicide. Guilty husband takes his own life. Tragic ending. You need to warn him. Why should I? The words came out bitter. He's planning to murder me. Iris. You're right. I press my hands to my temples. If he dies, everything gets complicated. And our children. I stopped. Christopher, Amanda, and Sophie. 3 adults who would be devastated. Who would never know their father had planned to kill their mother unless I could prove it. I need to talk to Victoria Drake, I said. Face to face. That's insane. She's dangerous. She's also careful. She won't risk exposure by doing anything to me directly, not without her plan in place. I grabbed my purse. Where does she live? Victoria Drake's condo was in a converted warehouse building with exposed brick and massive windows overlooking Harborview's marina. The kind of place that screamed money. Money she'd stolen from my husband. I buzzed her apartment. No answer. I tried again, then again. Finally. Yes. Her voice through the intercom was smooth, cultured. Miss Drake, My name is Iris Caldwell. I believe you know my husband, Dennis. I'd like to speak with you. A long pause. Then, fourth floor. Come up. The elevator rose slowly, giving me time to question every decision that had brought me here. But the doors opened and there she was, waiting in her doorway. Victoria Drake was striking. Not beautiful in the conventional way, but magnetic. 43 with silver threading through dark hair, sharp intelligence in her eyes. She was a predator, and she was very, very good at what she did. Mrs. Caldwell, she said, stepping aside. I've been expecting you. The condo was minimally furnished but expensive. White walls, modern furniture, that $1 million harbor view. Have you? I said. Dennis called this morning. Said you've been acting paranoid, going through his things, making wild accusations. She poured 2 glasses of wine, offered me one. I didn't take it. He's concerned you might be experiencing cognitive decline. How convenient for you both. Victoria smiled, sat down on the white sofa. Let's not play games. We're both intelligent women. You know what's happening. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to stop you. Both of you. No, you're not. She crossed her legs elegantly. Because you can't prove anything. Those messages. Dennis will say they were a joke. A game. The money. Business investments. The fake medical records. He'll blame the doctor. Claim he was misled. Everything can be explained away. You've done this before. 3 times at least. 3 dead men. Her smile didn't waver. Investigated and cleared every time. Because I'm very careful, Mrs. Caldwell. And very patient. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand your situation. Victoria leaned forward. Dennis is planning to kill you. He's committed now. His practice is under contract. Money's been transferred. Our Florida life is arranged. But here's what he doesn't know. She paused. I don't need him anymore. I never did. My blood went cold. What do you mean? I mean Dennis served his purpose. He gave me access to his assets, put everything in motion. But once you're dead, he becomes a liability. A murderer with a guilty conscience who might crack under pressure. She stood, walked to the window. So here's what's going to happen. Dennis is going to kill you however he's planned it. Pills, probably. An accident. Something that looks natural for a woman with documented dementia. And then, filled with remorse, he's going to take his own life. Tragic murder-suicide. The practice will be liquidated to settle the estate, and I, as his business partner, will facilitate that for a substantial fee. You're insane. I'm practical. And I'm giving you a choice. She turned to face me. Work with me. Help me prove Dennis is planning to kill you. We go to the police together. You, the concerned wife. Me, the worried business partner. We turn him in, save your life, and he goes to prison. The practice still gets sold, but you'll be alive to see it. You want me to betray my husband. I want you to survive. In return, you split the proceeds with me. 1 million for you, 1 million for me. You get to live. I get paid. Dennis goes to prison. Everyone wins. She moved closer. Except Dennis, of course. I stared at her. This woman who had killed 3 men, now offering me a devil's bargain. Why would I trust you? Because you don't have a choice. Dennis is going to kill you soon. This week, maybe. Tonight. Your only chance is to act first, with me. My phone buzzed. A text from Dennis. Where are you? We need to talk. Come home. Victoria saw me read it. He's getting impatient. What's it going to be, Iris? Partner with me and live, or go home to your husband and take your chances. But here's what Victoria Drake didn't know about librarians. We're researchers. We build cases from fragments. We connect dots others miss. And I'd spent the morning doing exactly that. I need time to think, I said. You have until midnight. After that, I called Dennis and tell him you were here, that you know everything, that he needs to act immediately. Victoria's smile was ice. Choose wisely, Mrs. Caldwell. Your life depends on it. I walked out of that condo into the November afternoon. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Dennis. Iris, please. I'm worried about you. I had 8 hours until midnight. 8 hours to decide whether to trust a serial killer or face my murderous husband alone. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to Harborview Point, a stretch of rocky beach overlooking the Atlantic. I sat in my car and tried to organize chaos into strategy. Then my phone rang. Christopher, my oldest. Mom, where are you? Dad called. He's worried sick. I'm fine, Christopher. He says you've been acting strange. Paranoid. He mentioned something about fake medical records and wild accusations. Christopher's voice carried that careful tone people use when they think someone's losing their mind. Mom, are you feeling okay? So Dennis was already working on the children, building his narrative. Christopher, I need you to listen carefully. Your father is lying. Mom, listen. He's planning something terrible. I found evidence. Scheduled messages about my death. Financial transfers to a woman named Victoria Drake. Fake dementia diagnoses. He's trying to have me declared incompetent so he can control everything. Silence. Then, Mom, that sounds Dad says you've been going through his things. Making accusations about his business partner. He's really concerned. We all are. My heart sank. Amanda and Sophie are driving up from Boston. They'll be there tonight. Mom, we think maybe you should see someone. A specialist. Dad found a facility. A facility. The word came out flat. He wants me institutionalized. Not institutionalized. Just evaluated. You sound like you're not yourself. I closed my eyes. This was Dennis's backup plan. If he couldn't kill me quietly, he'd have me locked away. Medicated. Declared incompetent. And once I was trapped in some facility, he could do whatever he wanted. Christopher, on September 15th, where was I? What? September 15th. Your father has medical records claiming I was at Dr. Whitmore's office having cognitive testing that day. But I was actually in Boston at a library conference. I have proof. Receipts, photos, attendance records. Someone created false documents. Someone is trying to make me look incompetent when I'm not. A pause. Longer this time. Why would Dad do that? Because he's planning to leave me for Victoria Drake. He's given her $900,000. He's selling his practice. And he needs me declared incompetent so he can control everything without a messy divorce. That's Christopher's voice trailed off. That's insane, Mom. Is it? Or does it explain everything? His secretive behavior. The sudden concern about my memory. The pressure to downsize. Silence. I'll come up, but I'm bringing Amanda and Sophie. We'll all sit down and figure this out together. Thank you. But Christopher, don't tell your father we talked. Not yet. Mom, please. Just trust me. I ended the call and sat there watching waves crash against the rocks. Then I called Eleanor. I need everything you found on Victoria Drake. All of it. And I need to document everything myself. Every email, every transfer, every piece of evidence. Organized, dated, cross-referenced. Can you help me? Of course. Come to the library. We worked in Eleanor's office until the building closed. Eleanor printed emails, financial records, news articles about Victoria's previous victims. I wrote a detailed timeline of everything that had happened. Every discovery, every threat, every lie. We organized it all into a folder. A complete story of a woman fighting for her life against two predators. This is enough for the police, Eleanor said, looking at the assembled evidence. No, everything here can be explained away. I need something irrefutable. A confession caught on recording. An action so clearly criminal no one can deny it. At 9 o'clock, I called Victoria Drake. I'll do it. Your plan. I'll work with you. But I want guarantees. Come to my condo. We'll discuss terms. No. Public place. The coffee house on Harbor Street. 10 o'clock. A pause. Come alone. I didn't go alone. Eleanor followed at a distance, sitting at a separate table with her laptop, ready to witness whatever happened. Victoria arrived exactly at 10, sliding into the booth across from me. So you've decided to be smart. I've decided to stay alive. Close enough. She pulled out a folder. I've documented everything. Dennis's transfers to me, the fake medical records, the scheduled messages. I have copies of all of it. He showed them to me, thinking I'd be amused. You expect me to believe you'll betray him? I'm already betraying him. The question is whether you're smart enough to accept help. She slid the folder across the table. This is everything the police need. We go together tomorrow morning. We tell them we both discovered Dennis's plan. 2 credible witnesses. They'll arrest him immediately. I looked at the folder. It was thorough, damning, almost too perfect. And after he's arrested? After, you hire me to help liquidate the practice. Standard consulting fee for the work I've already done. You get the rest. We both walk away clean. Except for the 3 men you killed. Her smile didn't waver. I didn't kill anyone. 3 men died. I had nothing to do with it. No evidence, no charges, no connection. And if you try to make a connection, you'll have to explain how you know about them, which makes you look paranoid, unstable. She leaned forward. Face it, Mrs. Caldwell. I'm your only option. What makes you think I won't go to the police myself right now? Because you're not stupid. You know they won't believe you without proof. And by the time you gather that proof, you'll be dead. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and something changed in her expression. What is it? Dennis. Asking where I am. She typed a response. He's getting nervous. Making his move. What kind of move? The kind that ends with you dead tonight. He's asking me to come to your house. Says he needs help with something. She looked at me. He's planning to do it tonight, Iris. And he wants me there to help stage it. The coffee shop suddenly felt too cold. Then we call the police now. And tell them what? That your husband texted his business partner? That's not a crime. Victoria stood. No, we stick to the plan. Tomorrow morning, police station, 9 sharp. Tonight, you stay somewhere safe. A hotel. He'll know something's wrong. Let him know. Panicked men make mistakes. She picked up her folder. Don't be late tomorrow. And don't do anything stupid. She left. Eleanor appeared at my elbow. Did you get it? I pulled out the small recording device from my purse, borrowed from the library's collection. Every word. What now? Now I go home. Iris, she said, Dennis is planning something tonight, which means I need to be there to stop it and to document it. I stood. Eleanor, if something happens, if I don't call you by midnight, take everything to the police. Tell them the whole story. I don't like this. Neither do I. But I'm 66 years old, and I'm tired of being underestimated. I drove home through streets that had become unfamiliar. Every shadow held threat. But I'd spent 41 years in that house. I wasn't going to let fear drive me away. Dennis's car was in the driveway. The house was dark except for a light in the kitchen. I texted Christopher. Don't come to the house. Meet me at the police station tomorrow. 9 a.m. Bring your sisters. It's important. Then I walked toward my front door. It was unlocked. I stepped inside, every sense heightened. Dennis. In the kitchen, dear. I found him at the table. A bottle of wine open, 2 glasses poured. He smiled when he saw me. I was worried. I'm glad you're home. Are you? Of course. He gestured to the wine. Sit, please. We need to talk. I looked at those glasses. The wine was my favorite, an expensive Pinot Noir. What are we celebrating? We're not celebrating. We're resolving things. He took a sip. I know you've been confused lately, Iris. Scared. But I can explain everything if you'll just sit and listen. I remained standing. Where's Victoria? His hand tightened on the glass. Victoria? Your business partner? The woman you've given $900,000? The woman you're planning to run away with after I'm dead. Dennis set down his glass carefully. When he looked at me, the mask was gone. No warmth, no pretense. Just cold assessment. How much do you actually know? Everything. The messages, the money, Victoria's history. The 3 men she killed. Your plan to make my death look like an accident. I pulled out my phone, held it up. And I've recorded all of it. proof enough to send you to prison. You're bluffing. Am I? I played Victoria's voice from the recorder. He's planning to do it tonight, Iris. And he wants me there to help stage it. Dennis's face went white, then red. He stood, hands shaking. You've ruined everything. 41 years, and you've ruined it all in 2 days. I ruined it? You planned to murder me. I planned to be free. He slammed his hand on the table. Free from this suffocating marriage. This boring, predictable life. This prison. Victoria offered me a way out, and you? He pointed at me. You couldn't just let it happen. You had to investigate. To interfere. To ruin everything. So what now? Do you still plan to kill me? Your children are on their way. A lie, but useful. I called Christopher. Told him everything. He's coming with Amanda and Sophie within the hour. That stopped him. And I've sent all the evidence to my lawyer and the police. You can't silence me anymore, Dennis. It's over. He stared at me, weighing options. Then his shoulders slumped. He sat back down, drained his wine glass. You think you're so smart, but you don't understand what you've done. Victoria isn't done with me. She's done with both of us. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? I mean Victoria Drake doesn't leave loose ends. Those other men didn't die because she wanted money. They died because they became threats. And now we both are. The kitchen window shattered. I hit the floor as glass rained down. Dennis dove under the table. Silence. Then footsteps on the back porch, slow and measured. Dennis's eyes met mine across the floor. I saw genuine terror there. She's here, he whispered. God help us, she's here. The back door handle turned. Victoria Drake stepped into my kitchen like she owned it. She wore black gloves and moved with cold purpose. Both of you on your feet. We rose slowly. Glass crunched under my shoes. Victoria moved further into the kitchen. You texted me 6 times tonight, Dennis. Desperate messages begging me to help you handle Iris. You made me a co-conspirator in writing. Did you really think I'd ignore that liability? Laura, I can explain. And you? She looked at me. So clever. Recording our conversation, gathering evidence, playing detective. You should have gone to the police immediately. Fatal mistake. The police have everything, I said. If something happens to us, no, they don't. You're bluffing. You wanted more evidence first. It's a librarian's instinct. Complete the research before drawing conclusions. She was right, and she knew it. So what's your plan? I forced my voice steady. Kill us both. That's harder to explain than one accident. Not when it's murder-suicide. She moved toward the knife on the counter, the one I'd used for dinner. Distraught husband planning to kill his wife gets caught. They struggle. He stabs her. Then, overcome with guilt, he takes his own life. Tragic end to a 41-year marriage. They'll investigate, Dennis said. They'll find the transfers, the evidence. Evidence I'll provide myself. As the concerned business partner who tried to warn Iris about Dennis's declining mental state. His paranoia. His violent fantasies. She picked up the knife. I've done this before. I know how to construct a narrative. The question is, which of you dies first? She was playing with us. Enjoying this. And I realized something crucial. Victoria Drake was most dangerous when she thought she'd won. You've made a mistake, I said quietly. Victoria laughed. Have I? Yes. You assumed I came home alone. You assumed I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I held up my phone so she could see the screen. I've been on an open call with Eleanor Martinez at the library for the past 20 minutes. She's heard everything. Every word you've said. Victoria's smile faltered. You're lying. Am I? Eleanor, are you there? I'm here, Iris. Eleanor's voice filled the kitchen through the speaker. And I've recorded everything. Victoria Drake. I'm calling the police on my other line right now. They're on their way. Victoria's face went pale, then flushed with rage. She moved toward me fast, reaching for the phone. I'd spent 41 years being underestimated, being seen as gentle, passive, harmless. I threw my full mug of hot coffee directly into her face. Victoria screamed, stumbling backward, hands flying to her eyes. Dennis lunged for the knife on the counter, but I was faster. I swept it away, sent it clattering across the floor. Out, I told Dennis. Front door. Now. We ran through the living room, past 41 years of family photographs and carefully chosen furniture. Out the front door into the November night. Behind us, I heard Victoria recovering, cursing, crashing through the kitchen. Dennis's hands shook as he fumbled with his car keys. She'll kill us. No, she won't. Not now. Not with witnesses and recordings. I grabbed his arm. But we need to get to the police station before she runs. We got into his car. His hands trembled too badly to drive, so I took the wheel. Something I hadn't done with Dennis in the passenger seat in years. We flew down Harbor Street toward the police station. I called Eleanor back. Are the police really coming? On their way to your house now. I called them the moment Victoria admitted to planning murder. They've been listening to the recording. Eleanor's voice was breathless. Iris, are you safe? Getting there. Meet us at the station with everything. The Harborview Police Department was lit up against the dark sky. I pulled into the parking lot, and we practically fell out of the car. Inside, the night sergeant looked up in alarm at our disheveled appearance, the terror on our faces. We need to report an attempted murder, I said, and conspiracy, and fraud, and we have evidence. Within minutes, we were in an interview room. Within an hour, Eleanor arrived with the folder and all the recordings. Within 2 hours, Detective Sarah Chen was examining everything with an expression of mounting shock. Mrs. Caldwell, she said carefully, are you telling me your husband conspired with Victoria Drake to murder you, and then she attempted to kill you both when you discovered the plot? That's exactly what I'm telling you. I met her eyes, and I have proof of everything. Dennis sat beside me, head in his hands. When the detective asked him to confirm my story, he just nodded. I wanted out of the marriage, he said quietly. I met Victoria 6 months ago. She was vibrant, alive. She made me feel young. When she suggested I could liquidate the practice and start fresh, I jumped at it. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. But I never wanted to kill you, Iris. I swear, that was all Victoria's idea. She said divorce would destroy me financially, that you'd never agree to a fair settlement. She kept pushing, planning, and I went along with it because I'm a coward. So the scheduled messages? Detective Chen asked. Victoria wrote them, said they were just fantasy. A game. I never thought she'd actually. His voice broke. I never thought any of this would actually happen. It was a lie, or half a lie. Dennis had wanted me dead. The evidence was clear. But now, faced with consequences, he was trying to shift all blame onto Victoria, making himself the manipulated victim instead of the co-conspirator. I didn't contradict him. Not yet. Let him think I'd forgive him, that I'd help build his defense. The truth would emerge eventually in depositions and trials and careful examination of evidence. Victoria Drake is extremely dangerous, I told Detective Chen. She's killed before. At least 3 times. Men in situations identical to this. I gestured to Eleanor. We have documentation. Eleanor stepped forward with newspaper articles, research notes, timelines showing the pattern. Detective Chen's expression grew darker as she read. We've issued an APB for Drake. Your recording is admissible under Massachusetts law. We'll have officers at your home, Mrs. Caldwell. And we'll need full statements from both of you. This is going to take several hours. I'm not going anywhere, I said. We sat in that interview room until dawn, telling the story again and again. Dennis's version emphasized Victoria's manipulation, her predatory nature, his weakness and regret. My version was simpler. The truth, documented and provable. At 5 a.m, my children arrived. Christopher, Amanda, and Sophie, their faces pale with exhaustion and fear. They'd received my text about the police station and had driven through the night. Mom! Christopher pulled me into his arms. What happened? Dad called, said something terrible. I'm fine. Over his shoulder, I saw Dennis watching us, his face full of manufactured remorse and desperate hope. But there's a lot I need to tell you. About your father. About everything. We sat in a conference room, and I told my children the truth. Showed them the evidence. The scheduled messages about my funeral. The financial transfers. The fake medical records. Victoria Drake's history of killing. I watched their faces change as they understood. Watched them look at their father with growing horror. Dad! Amanda's voice was small. Is this true? Dennis opened his mouth, closed it. What could he say? The evidence was overwhelming. I made terrible mistakes, he said finally. I was weak, foolish, but I never wanted to actually hurt your mother. You have to believe that. You scheduled messages about her funeral, Sophie said, her voice hard. You gave another woman $900,000. You tried to have Mom declared incompetent. Victoria manipulated me. You're an adult. Christopher's hands were shaking. You're our father. You don't get to blame everything on someone else. You made choices. You chose to betray Mom. You chose to plan her murder. It was never real, Dennis insisted. Just fantasy. Stop. I held up one hand. Dennis, stop lying. To them. To yourself. To me. I looked at my children. Your father wanted me dead, so he could start a new life with money from his practice and my life. Insurance. He brought Victoria Drake into it because he needed help. She played along because she saw an opportunity to take everything and eliminate both of us. They're both guilty. The degree might differ, but they both planned to kill me. Silence filled the room. Outside, dawn was breaking over Harborview, painting the harbor pink and gold. Amanda started crying. Sophie put her arm around her sister. Christopher just stared at his father with an expression I'd never seen before. Complete rejection. I think, Christopher said slowly, that you're going to need a lawyer, Dad. And you're not staying with any of us while you wait for trial. Dennis's face crumbled. Christopher, please. No. My son stood. You tried to kill our mother. There's no coming back from that. Detective Chin appeared in the doorway. We located Victoria Drake about 2 hours ago. She was attempting to board a flight to Miami using a fake passport. We have her in custody. Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to sit down. She's asking for a lawyer, the detective continued. But she's also making statements, trying to cut a deal. She's claiming you, she nodded at Dennis, were the primary planner. That she was just a consultant who got in over her head. Of course she was. Victoria Drake was a survivor, and survivors threw others under the bus when necessary. We'll need more statements, Detective Chin said. From all of you. This is going to be a long investigation. Months, maybe longer. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement. The list keeps growing. She looked at me with something like respect. Mrs. Caldwell, you did incredible work gathering this evidence. Most victims never see it coming. I'm not most victims, I said quietly. By 7 a.m, we were finally allowed to leave. Christopher offered to drive me home, but I declined. I needed to see the house in daylight. Needed to reclaim it from the violence that had invaded it. Dennis was being held for further questioning. He'd be charged eventually. The evidence was too strong. His lawyer would argue manipulation, diminished capacity, anything to reduce his sentence. But he'd go to prison. I was certain of that. Victoria Drake would fight harder. She had experience with investigations, with constructing narratives. But this time she'd left too many witnesses, too much evidence. Eleanor's recording was damning. My testimony was detailed and credible. And most importantly, she'd gotten arrogant. She'd underestimated a 66-year-old librarian, and it had cost her everything. I drove home alone through streets I'd known for 41 years. Past the coffee shop and the bookstore and Marcus's repair shop where this had all begun. The house was surrounded by police tape. Officers were still processing the scene, photographing the shattered window, collecting evidence. I stood on the sidewalk and looked at my home. The place where I'd raised 3 children, celebrated 41 anniversaries, lived a life I'd thought was safe. Mrs. Caldwell, a young officer, approached. We're almost finished here. You should be able to get back in by this afternoon. Is there somewhere you can stay until then? I'll figure something out. Ma'am. He hesitated. For what it's worth, you're the bravest person I've ever met. What you did last night, calling your friend, recording everything, throwing that coffee, you saved your own life. Probably your husband's too. He's not my husband anymore, I said. Not in any way that matters. I walked to my car and drove to Harborview Point, the same stretch of beach where I'd sat yesterday, trying to make sense of chaos. The Atlantic was calm this morning, reflecting the sunrise. Beautiful, peaceful, deceptive in its tranquility, just like my marriage had been. My phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Mrs. Caldwell, this is Attorney James Morrison. I'm representing your husband. I have nothing to say to him. I understand, but I wanted you to know Dennis intends to plead guilty. He's prepared to cooperate fully with the prosecution, testify against Victoria Drake, and accept whatever sentence the court determines. He's asked me to tell you he's sorry, that he knows he doesn't deserve forgiveness. He's right. He doesn't. He also wants you to know he's instructed me to ensure you retain all marital assets. The house, the practice sale proceeds, everything. He's not going to fight you on the divorce or property settlement. I laughed without humor. How generous. He'll give me what's already mine while he goes to prison for trying to kill me. Mrs. Caldwell, tell Dennis that sorry isn't enough. Tell him 41 years of deception can't be erased with a guilty plea. And tell him I hope he lives a very long life in prison, thinking every single day about what he threw away. I hung up. The sun was fully risen now, warming the November morning. Around me, Harborview was waking up. Joggers on the path, dogs being walked. The ordinary rhythm of life continuing despite extraordinary events. I'd survived, through intelligence, courage, and refusing to be the victim everyone assumed I'd be. But survival was only the beginning. Now came the harder part, rebuilding a life from the rubble of a 41-year lie. 3 months later, I stood in a courtroom and watched Victoria Drake receive her sentence. 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, and a list of other charges that took the judge 5 minutes to read. She'd fought until the end, her lawyers constructing elaborate defenses. But Eleanor's recording had been irrefutable. My testimony had been unshakable. And when investigators dug deeper into those 3 previous deaths, they'd found patterns. Financial irregularities, suspicious timing, witnesses who'd been afraid to speak before. Victoria Drake would likely die in prison. She looked at me as the bailiffs led her away, her face a mask of cold fury. I met her gaze without flinching. She'd underestimated me, and that mistake had cost her everything. Dennis's sentencing had been quieter, sadder. 12 years for conspiracy to commit murder, reduced because of his cooperation and guilty plea. His lawyer had argued he'd been manipulated, that Victoria had been the primary architect. The judge had been unmoved. "You are a 68-year-old man," she'd said from the bench, looking at Dennis with barely concealed disgust. "A professional, a father and grandfather. You chose to participate in a plot to murder your wife of 41 years rather than have an honest conversation about divorce. That choice reveals profound moral bankruptcy, regardless of who initiated the plan." My children had attended his sentencing. They sat behind me, silent, their support a physical presence at my back. When Dennis turned to look at us before being led away, none of them met his eyes. The divorce had been finalized 2 weeks ago. I kept the house, the retirement accounts, my share of the dental practice sale after a court-appointed receiver closed it in March. Dennis's lawyer had made good on his promise. Dennis didn't contest anything. Perhaps he genuinely felt guilty. Or perhaps he'd simply recognized that fighting would only make things worse. I didn't care which. I had what I needed to rebuild. Today, I was meeting with a real estate agent. The house on Seaside Drive was too large for one person, too full of ghosts. I decided to sell it and buy something smaller. A condo overlooking the harbor, perhaps. Something that was entirely mine, untainted by the past. Mrs. Caldwell. The agent, a woman named Patricia Holmes, smiled at me across her desk. I have excellent news. We've received 3 offers on your property, all above asking price. The market is very strong. We reviewed the offers together. One was from a young family with 2 children. Their letter was full of excitement about raising their kids in the neighborhood, about the big backyard and the maple tree. I thought about Christopher, Amanda, and Sophie playing in that yard, climbing that tree, learning to ride bikes on that quiet street. This one, I said, pointing to the young family's offer. I'll accept this one. It's actually the lowest of the 3, Patricia noted gently. I know, but they'll love the house the way it deserves to be loved. That matters more than an extra $20,000. Patricia smiled. You have a kind heart, Mrs. Caldwell. I thought about that as I drove back through Harborview. Kind wasn't the word most people had been using lately. The local news had covered the trials extensively, painting me as either a hero or a victim, depending on the outlet. My story had been picked up nationally. Woman outsmarts husband's murder plot ran in USA Today. A producer from a true crime podcast had called 4 times. I declined all interviews. This wasn't a story I wanted to tell for entertainment. It was my life, my pain, my survival. I didn't owe anyone access to it. Marcus Chun had been one of the few bright spots in the aftermath. He'd testified at both trials, explaining how he'd found the scheduled messages, how he'd immediately known something was wrong. His testimony had been crucial, establishing the timeline, proving premeditation. You saved my life, I'd told him afterward. You saved your own life, he'd corrected. I just gave you information. Everything after that, the investigation, the evidence gathering, the confrontation, that was all you. He was right, of course. But I'd learned something important over these months. You don't survive alone. Eleanor's help had been invaluable. Marcus's warning had been essential. My children's support had kept me grounded when everything felt surreal. Community mattered. Connection mattered. And I'd spent 41 years in a marriage that had isolated me, made me smaller, convinced me that Dennis's approval was all I needed. Never again. I pulled into the driveway one last time. Tomorrow, the movers would come. Next week, I'd hand over the keys to that young family and their dreams. Inside, the house was mostly empty. Boxes lined the hallways. I'd kept very little. Photographs of my children, books I couldn't part with, a few pieces my mother had left me. Everything else was going to charity or to the kids. I didn't want anything that reminded me of Dennis. My phone rang. Amanda. Mom, are you home? We're outside. All 3 of my children stood on the porch. Christopher with his wife Rachel. Amanda alone after her recent divorce. Sophie with her partner Kate. They were carrying grocery bags and bottles of wine. We thought you could use company on your last night here, Christopher said. And we brought supplies for a proper goodbye dinner, Sophie added. We cooked together in the kitchen where Victoria had threatened our lives. We ate at the dining room table where I'd served 10,000 family meals, where Dennis had pretended everything was normal while planning my death. We drank wine and told stories. Good memories from before everything shattered, because those memories deserved to be preserved even if the marriage itself had been a lie. Do you remember when Dad tried to install that ceiling fan? Amanda asked, laughing through tears. And it fell during dinner, and he insisted he'd done it correctly, that the ceiling was defective? We all laughed, but there was pain beneath the humor. Grief for what we'd lost, for the father they'd thought they knew, for the family that had seemed so solid. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I'm sorry I didn't see it earlier, that I let you all believe everything was fine for so long. Mom, no. Sophie reached across the table, took my hand. You didn't let us believe anything. He lied to all of us. For years, probably. You're not responsible for his deception. But I should have. What? Read his mind. Monitored his every action. Christopher shook his head. You trusted your husband. That's not a failure, Mom. That's what marriage is supposed to be. He's the one who betrayed that trust. You're the bravest person I know, Amanda said, tears in her eyes. When you found out what he was planning, you didn't fall apart. You didn't run. You fought back. You gathered evidence. You outsmarted both of them. You survived. You're our hero, Mom. I let myself cry then. The first real tears I'd shed since that November night. My children surrounded me, holding me, letting me release months of fear and grief and rage. I thought I'd be devastated, I admitted. Losing the marriage, losing the house, losing the life I'd built. But I'm not. I'm relieved. Is that terrible? It's honest, Rachel said gently. And honesty is what you deserve after 41 years of lies. We stayed up late. We played cards, a game we'd played for decades. We drank too much wine and laughed until we cried. And for the first time in months, I felt light. Free. At midnight, as my children were leaving, Christopher pulled me aside. I went to see Dad last week, he said quietly. I stiffened. You don't need my permission. I know, but I wanted you to know. He looked uncomfortable. He's not doing well. Prison is hard. He's lost weight. Looks old. He is old. We both are. He asked about you. Whether you were okay. Whether you'd found a new place. Christopher met my eyes. I didn't tell him anything. I said you were doing well. Moving forward. He cried. Good. Mom. No, Christopher. I know you want me to feel sorry for him. To forgive him. But I can't. Maybe someday, but not now. Not when I still wake up sometimes wondering if he would have actually gone through with it. If he would have held me while I died, knowing he'd killed me. Christopher hugged me tightly. You don't have to forgive him. I just wanted you to know he's suffering. That he knows what he lost. After they left, I walked through the empty house one final time. Each room held memories. Birthdays and Christmases and ordinary Tuesdays. I'd been happy here once. Or I'd thought I was happy, which maybe amounted to the same thing. But happiness built on lies isn't real. And I was done with anything that wasn't real. I spent my last night in the house on an air mattress in the master bedroom, surrounded by boxes. And when dawn broke over Harborview, I felt ready. Ready to leave. Ready to start over. Ready to be Iris Caldwell. Not Dennis's wife, not the murder plot survivor, but just myself. Whoever that turned out to be. The movers came at 8. By noon, the house was empty. By 2, I'd handed the keys to Patricia and driven away without looking back. My new condo was downtown in a renovated building near the harbor. Smaller than the house, just 2 bedrooms. But the windows overlooked the water and the space felt like possibility. Eleanor helped me unpack, chattering about library gossip and her daughter's upcoming wedding. Marcus stopped by with a housewarming gift. A new laptop, top of the line, already set up. For your next investigation, he joked. There won't be a next investigation, I assured him. I'm done with mysteries. But that wasn't entirely true. The biggest mystery remained. Who was I now that I wasn't Dennis's wife? Now that I didn't have to be accommodating, careful, small? Over the next weeks, I began to find out. I joined a book club. A real one, not a polite social gathering, but a group that read challenging books and had passionate discussions. I started yoga teacher training, something I'd always wanted to do. I volunteered at the library, helping Eleanor with digital literacy programs. I dated tentatively. A retired professor from the bookstore. A widower from the book club. Nothing serious, nothing requiring promises. Just conversation and companionship on my terms. I discovered that I liked living alone. Liked making decisions without consulting anyone. Liked eating dinner at 9 if I wanted, or not eating at all. Liked the silence and solitude and freedom to be exactly who I was without editing myself. 6 months after Victoria's sentencing, I received a letter forwarded from my lawyer. From Dennis, written from the federal prison in New Hampshire. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity, the same quality that had saved my life, made me read it. Dear Iris, I don't expect you to respond. I don't even know if you'll read this. But I need to say some things, even if only to the void. I was a fool, a coward. A selfish man who threw away everything valuable for a fantasy. I told myself I was unhappy, that I deserved more, that you didn't understand me. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I was bored. And instead of dealing with that honestly, I destroyed our life. You were always the strong one. I see that now. You raised our children while I focused on my career. You maintained our home, our connections, our family. You were the foundation of everything good in my life. And I was planning to kill you rather than have an honest conversation. I think about that every day. About how close I came to murder. About what I would have lost. Not just my freedom, but my soul. Victoria manipulated me, but I let her. I wanted to believe her promises because they let me avoid responsibility. That's on me. All of it. I hope you're happy, Iris. I hope you're building a life that makes you feel as free as you deserve. I hope someday our children can forgive me, though I don't deserve it. And I hope you know that what you did, fighting back, surviving, refusing to be a victim, that took more courage than I've ever had in my entire life. I'm sorry for everything. Dennis. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. I didn't forgive him. But I acknowledged his words, his regret, his recognition of what he'd done. And then I moved on. Because that was the real victory. Not the trial. Not the sentencing. Not even the survival. The victory was building a life so full that Dennis's absence didn't leave a hole. The victory was building a life so full that Dennis's absence didn't leave a hole. The victory was discovering that at 66 years old, I was stronger, braver, and more capable than I'd ever known. 1 year after that November night, when everything changed, I stood on my balcony overlooking the harbor and watched the sunset paint the water gold and red. The air smelled of salt and possibility. Below me, Harborview bustled with life. Tourists and locals. Students and artists. The beautiful chaos of a town in motion. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. Dinner tomorrow? Want you to meet Kate's parents. I smiled and texted back. I'd love to. Behind me, my condo was warm and welcoming, filled with books I loved and photographs of people who mattered. It was small but mine. Every inch reflected my choices, my taste, my life. No secrets. No lies. No compromises that made me smaller. At 66, I'd learned the most important lesson of my life. Survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about refusing to let anyone, even someone you loved for 41 years, define who you are or what you're worth. I'd spent decades being underestimated, being seen as the quiet wife, the helpful librarian, the nice woman who never made waves. And when it mattered most, that underestimation had been my greatest weapon. Because while Dennis and Victoria were planning my death, I was planning my survival. While they were congratulating themselves on their cleverness, I was gathering evidence. While they thought they'd won, I was 3 steps ahead. Age isn't weakness. Experience isn't obsolescence. And a woman who's lived 66 years has learned things about patience, persistence, and power that young arrogance can never comprehend. I survived because I refused to be the victim they assumed I'd be. I survived because I was smarter, tougher, and more resourceful than they gave me credit for. I survived because I'd spent a lifetime observing, learning, preparing for challenges I didn't even know were coming. And now, standing in my own space, living my own life, answering to no one but myself, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. The sun set over the harbor, and I watched it without fear, without regret, without anything but gratitude for the second chance I'd fought so hard to earn. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new possibilities, new chapters in a story that was finally truly mine. But tonight, I was simply Iris Caldwell, 66 years old, wiser than ever, and finally completely free.